being here today. My name is Katie Alberton. I'm Director of Administration. For those who recognize me, which I see a lot of unfamiliar faces in here. Our esteemed CEO, Debbie Ashcroft, is out of town today, so I'm going to chat to the rest of the staff. Hopefully that's okay with y'all. I'm excited to see such a full room. This is amazing. Especially, you know, we've all been drowned in Zoom and all of that, so I know it warms my heart to see all of you in person and here and there. We do also have people participating via Zoom today. They are online. We're utilizing our new building technology, so you won't see them, but they see you. We have a camera right here at the back of the room that's going to follow our instructor, and everyone is watching from there. So, hey, everyone on Zoom. Also, just be mindful that this is also being recorded and will be used for future trainings. So, keep that in mind. Don't do anything crazy. Let's talk a minute about EAH, Employer Assisted Housing Program. Show of hands, who is here to fulfill a requirement to become EAH certified? Majority of you guys, awesome. Who in the room is lenders other than mine? Very cool. So for those of you that don't know, an Employer Assisted Housing Program is something initialized through NAR that CPAR is rolling out locally. This is something that Amanda Corbin, our president, has gotten behind as well. And the whole goal of the EAH program is to go into the community and help employers and businesses provide incentives to their employees for buying a home in the community that they're working in. And that will be done through 4 major areas. And of course, you're going to learn all about this at your next class. But the major areas are the home buyer education, and that is provided by the certified realtors, as well as credit guidance, and that will be provided by the certified lenders that we're partnering with. And ideally what will happen is the realtors and the lenders will come together and do like a lunch and learn for a business in the community, where employees will attend and they'll learn from the realtor as well as the lender at the same time. So then the third part of that is the information on financial assistance programs that we provide within our community, such as ReHouse Bay and SHIP. And then the fourth piece of that is an optional program that the employer can get into. So like financial assistance by means of like down payment assistance or like a match savings program. All of that will be up to the employer themselves. And then let's talk a second about the certification process for the Employer Assisted Housing Program. You guys have this at your seats. You all should have a copy of this. This is for the realtor certification. The lenders is a little bit different. We do have some of those at the table out front. But for the realtors, there's 3 classes that you're going to have to take. And so the mandatory Employee Assisted Housing Program class, which will be next month, that's conducted by Tamika Bryant, who is certified through the National Association of Realtors. And then today's class by Sheila Ware about ReHouse Bay. And then there's a third piece to this. And on the back of your flyer, some of you guys have been a little confused about this, so we apologize. But this is a list of elective classes. So you have to choose one of these off of this list to become certified. And if you guys have any questions on that process, feel free to reach out to Kim or me, and I'll refer you back to Kim or any of us, and we'll help you out with that process. So that brings us to today's class, the ReHouse Bay class. We believe that ReHouse Bay and SHIP and all of these local programs are so important for our community and members of the community who are hoping to buy a home, and maybe they didn't even know that was an option for them. But we want to provide them with an avenue in which they can accomplish that goal. And ReHouse Bay has already been an awesome partner for CPAR. They've already done presentations for us and multiple different things, answered a ton of questions. Sheila Ware knows it all. So with that, I'm going to introduce Ms. Sheila. She is the Deputy Director of Community Development for Panama City. But she is the woman that knows it all about ReHouse Bay and SHIP and all of the potential issues or things that you're going to run into that program. So she's hoping to share her knowledge so you guys can be an asset to her and also an asset to our community. So Ms. Sheila Ware.
Our husband is hearing the speaker because of all the background noise. So they all have a good time and we can put background noise down, that will help them when they can hear Miss Sheila at home, okay?
Thank you all for having me. A lot of you I'm familiar with that I've worked with before, but I'm interested in working with anybody that I haven't already. So thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come and learn more about the SHIP program. ReHouse Bay is basically an extension of the SHIP program. So all of our funding are state housing initiative partnership funds that we're receiving. I'm gonna go through, we have a little handout that shows all the different programs that we offer. So I'm gonna go through those, and I know most of you are here basically hear about the purchase program, so we'll take that one for last, and then I'll take questions after that. That sounds good? One of the programs that we offer is owner-occupied residential rehab. So anyone that is living in a home that needs repairs done on that particular home, they can come in, apply to the ReHouseBay.org website, and then they'll get on the list for rehab assistance. The rehab assistance, one of the qualifications is you have to income qualify. All of our programs have to income qualify. The second thing with rehab is you have to have had ownership in that property for 5 years. So you can't buy a home this year and then come to us and say, oh, I bought this house, we need to get an inspection, the roof's all caving in, can you come and help us? You have to have had ownership in the property for the last 5 years. That program can pay, we can spend up to right now $105,000 in rehab. But it, you know, there's always a caveat. It depends on what the home is assessed at. If you receive insurance funds, we have to look at what you received in insurance funds to make sure you cannot duplicate services. So the benefits cannot be duplicated.
What if someone didn't have it?
If someone did not have insurance, we have a program that can possibly assist with that also. That would get more into reconstruction, demolition, but we do have programs that we offer that. One of the requirements is though, after the home is completed, you have to obtain insurance at that time. Yes, ma'am.
What's the maximum income to partake in the program?
The income guidelines have changed and it's based on household size. Actually, they just changed and they have gone down, unfortunately. So that's going to be less people qualify. But for example, a family of 2. And this gets a little confusing for anyone to qualify other than for them to come in our office because we look at household income. It's not just the people on the loan. It's household income. So if you have 5 people living in that household and 3 of them are getting Social Security or and 2 of them are employed, we have to count all the income. We also have to look at the assets. And sometimes that can make a big difference. Sometimes it won't make much of a difference at all. And the assets would include bank accounts, all bank accounts, if they own a rental property, if they have land that they own, any asset that they have. If they have retirement funds that they're just not receiving monthly, but they have the funds set aside and they have access to it. So that's a big thing. So any stocks, bonds, things like that, we have to look at. Okay. But for a family of 4, to give you an example, the max is $80,640 would be for the rehab program. But we also have income, we have guidelines on the income levels that we can assist. So we can assist 35 people, 35% of our funds can be spent on people that fall into the low income category. 35% have to be spent on very low. And then the additional 30% can be spent on our moderate income families, which is 120 to 140% of 8 and 9. And that guideline will go up to for a household 4, 94.8 is the new income limit for a household 4. Now, I will tell you that in the moderate, yeah. The 120 and the 140 is the money that snaps up the quickest, and we're limited in those categories, because really the funds are set up for people who, if it wasn't for this program, you would not be able to get into a home or have the repairs done, that type of thing. If you have, you know, insurance funds and you use those insurance funds to go out and buy a car, then that's an issue. So, but Right now, funding, we have quite a bit of funding, so there should not be an issue. You know, most people, as long as they qualify, should be able to get assistance. But rehab runs a little bit slower because we got to find the contractors that'll do the work. We have to get bids, so that is a process. But if you're working with someone that is trying to go through rehab or you need someone that needs to go through that program, you know, things that they can do is make sure they have ownership to the property. Property taxes are current on the property. There's got issues with the deed, because a lot of times we go in and we find out there's 10 people that own that property. Versus just the person that's living in it, or the person living in it does not actually have ownership to it. So those are some things that, you know, some questions that you can ask them going in. Yes, ma'am.
Do contractors have to be approved through you all? I mean, is there a process for them?
It's a very simple process. They just have to fill out an application and then they let it through there, through that process. Okay. One of the other programs that we have is foreclosure prevention mortgage assistance. If someone has become delinquent on their mortgage payments, they have to be at least 3 months behind. We can assist them with up to $10,000. They do sign a promissory note, a 3-year note. It's a one-time program. One time they can do this within their lifetime of that loan. And what we do first is I have a client come in, I counsel them to find out, because we want to exhaust all possibilities with the lender first. So if the lender is able to do a forbearance, but they say at the end of the forbearance, they'll have to pay X amount of dollars, you know, we may take advantage of that. So we're gonna look at all options that are available to them. And then we're gonna go with what is the best reasonable option for them to try to keep them in their home. They will sign a 3-year note for that, but it will pay up to $10,000. Yes, ma'am.
Back to the rehab.
Yes.
If somebody wants to get a house done and they know the builder has to bring by you guys, do they use that specific one?
We have to do everything by bid.
Okay.
So we would get an inspector would go out and we'll work right up, then we would send it out for bid. If they want that contractor included in the bid, we sure we can do that. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on the foreclosure program? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
What about mobiles? Are those included in that?
If the mobile home has to be, older than 1994, anything pre-1994, we cannot assist with. And I will tell you the difficulty, because another thing that we offer is we are a certified counseling agency. So we do all of the counseling. The client has to go through counseling with us first. And the mobile homes have been a very hard one for the lenders to work with us. Because we have to guarantee if we send that payment, all foreclosure proceedings are gonna stop. You are going to accept this and they're gonna be on the ground after that point. And also the client has to be able to, if we catch the payments up, we have to show affordability. If us making a $10,000, you know, catching the payments, let's say it's $7,500 is what they need. But they still can't afford it, we wouldn't be able to assist them because ultimately they're not gonna be able to maintain it. And in those cases, sometimes what we do is we may have to give the lender a good faith funds, which they'll put towards the mortgage, and then we'll work on a modification for the client. Or we get all of that in place, so when the funds are there, you know, they get the funds, if they're requiring upfront money for a modification, then they're rolled right into the model. But all of that has to be set up prior to us assisting the client, and we work with them through all those phases. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Sheila, just one thing, whenever you're asked a question, could you repeat it?
Okay.
We have people on Zoom that are having a hard time hearing, and we might incorporate a mic in just a minute, so y'all just hold tight with us because we're doing this new technology. So
Okay, no
just
problem.
repeat the question, thank you.
You may have to remind me that.
Hopefully we can get that mic.
Yes.
So for the assistance, the $10,000 assistance, the 3-year note you talked about, is that, it's a forgivable?
Yes, it's forgivable.
Okay,
It is forgivable after 3 years.
okay.
So they're signing, her question was the 3-year note, is it forgivable? Yes, it is forgivable after the 3 years. You're not signing a mortgage, you're just signing a note. So the note basically states you're gonna reside in that home for the next 3 years. If you sell it prior to those 3 years, then you have to pay those funds back. But majority of the time, I've never had a case of that happening, to be honest with you. Yes, ma'am.
So it's for those funds, the 3-year funds, it doesn't matter what part of Bay County you live in.
As long as you're in Bay County, Panama City, you service the whole area. The next program that we offer is rental utility deposit assistance. If someone is moving into a new rental and they are not able to provide the deposit that the landlord is requesting, they can apply with ReHouseBay.org or ReHouseBay.org for assistance with that deposit. We will pay the deposit, first month's rent, and if there are utility deposits that are owed, that they're unable to pay. We have to show affordability that they can't have $500, well, that's not a good example. They can't have $1,200 coming, income a month and have rent of $1,000. And we've had some of those cases come in and they don't understand why we can't assist. But we try to have the rent at no more than, and I know this is unreasonable right now, but this is just a guide, to have them look at no more than 30% of their income. However, majority of people, that's not going to happen with. So what can we do is they'll come in, I will look at their budget. We'll do a budget with them because we all know what your gross income and your net is, it's two different things. And as long as I can show affordability. Now, on the 1,200 and 1,000, there's no way to show affordability on that one. But if there is affordability there, we would be approved. Okay, so there's ways around it, 30%, yes, in a perfect world, we'd love to have that, but that's just not realistic right now. Yes, ma'am.
When somebody is looking for rental, when do they need to apply for this?
If they are looking for a rental, they should apply immediately for that because we have so many people that have applied for it and the state's going to, need also. If you have $20,000 in the bank, you really don't need the assistance for the deposit. We do have some people that apply for it just because it's there. And so we have to look at it because the money has to stretch. We can only do so many rentals in a year, rental assistance a year. So if they want to make the most out of that program, if they need to use that.
So they know their lease is coming up, or they're gonna have to move out, they need to.
Well, when you say, you're saying if their lease is up,
And they have to like move to a new place.
okay, but this is, the program, if they don't have the deposit money, but if they're getting the deposit back from the home they were already in, so because it's really based on need and they're gonna have to income qualify. That program was really designed to assist people with COVID basically, and then people that have not rented before. And they're just trying to get their feet wet and they just, get into a rental in order to establish credit so they can move into home ownership.
Can you repeat where to get the rental, where to apply for rental assistance?
ReHouseBay.org. All of our programs, you have to go to the website and apply. But there are also other agencies that assist with rental deposits, and that would be Doorways, Salvation Army. There are a lot of social service agencies out there that assist with that also. Okay. Any questions on that? The maximum amount that can be spent on utility rental assistance is $5,000. One-time program.
I think I'm gonna restate the question.
Okay.
How long does it usually take from the time you apply till you can get that assistance?
For the rental, I would say it's at least 30 days. They try to move them around, move them through as quickly as they can, but it just depends on how many people are ahead of that person and also their income category. And I would tell you, most of the people in the moderate income category, it'll be very hard to push that through for rental assistance. Okay,
Thank you.
I have some years ago. So right now, how many people see in the pipeline, just as an example, maybe a rough number?
for rental, that I wouldn't be able to, I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers with me to tell you how many people are in the pipeline with that. If you're not gonna come into the office, let me just explain it this way, probably would be the best. You can't come into the office Monday and say, I found this rental, it's $1,200 a month, I need the deposit by Friday. Because we have to do verifications for that. We have to verify your income, we have to verify your assets. It's the same process as any other program. We do try to move it along as quickly as we can, but, it still is a process. Yes, ma'am.
So would you suggest having them do that prior to searching or while they're searching?
If it's someone that really needs the funds, they already know they're gonna use it at that point, and I would have them apply immediately for it. Because that's where it comes in, is there really a need there, or is it someone that just is going to apply for the assistance because it's there? Because you have to realize, with the rental assistance, it's a one-time program. So if you're able to do your deposit and your rent right now, go ahead and use your funds, because a year down the road, something could happen and you may need to tap into that program and you wouldn't be able to because you've already used the system.
Isn't that program basically just throwing money away? I mean, that is just like ridiculous. I mean, I honestly, it really is. I mean, it just sounds so unfeasible that it's not even viable. If you have to make 3 times what your rental is, so if you're renting for $700 a month and you're not making at least $2,100 a month, you're not getting that, folks. You just don't qualify. So how is any type of rental assistance going to help you? It can't. I'm confused.
The landlord is the one that would make the decision on whether that person is viable. So all landlords don't do the majority of them do. The bigger, complexes are gonna do the 3 times the rent. But a lot of the private landlords, that's not one of their requirements. I mean, I understand.
But I mean, you help them out with their down payment assistance and their rental assistance, and then the year is up on their lease and they're right back in the same situation that they started in before. So now you just throwing money out the window for somebody that
Well, not really, what if they didn't come up with a deposit?
That's why it's for people who really need it.
Yeah.
Because you're doing the deposit. There may be someone, I have people that have applied for purchase assistance. And, we're doing extensive counseling, but they are not ready to move forward to the next step with that. So the rental assistance is an option for them to help them move forward. And you have to understand, this program came about with Hurricane Michael and also with COVID.
And what if their situation changes during the year and they get a better job? Then they're not right back in the same situation.
or vice versa, if they're going into a rental and you guys are helping them with the assistance, put them into something that a lower end house that they can afford, instead of them spending $900 a month that's not going anywhere. Put them in a house that you can make a
Well,
mortgage.
the rental has to be affordable.
Right.
We will not assist them if the rental is not affordable with their income.
I mean, and
Everyone doesn't want to be a homeowner. Everyone shouldn't be a homeowner. I mean,
I can agree with that.
So that, there are some people, I hate to say it, there's some people that are gonna be lifetime rentals. But it is not set up, to your question, in response to it, it's not set up for someone to hop from apartment to apartment. My lease is up, so let me apply for this program so I can move to the nearest place that's opened in town. It's not set up for that, it's based on need. Yes.
After the lease is up, does the renter keep the deposit?
That is, it's really, that's a very good question. It is supposed to come back as a program, however, we don't have the control over that. I will tell you, most landlords will, the majority of the time, people are not getting these deposits back. 9 times out of 10, the deposit is not going back.
Repairs, things like that.
Yeah.
Is it an all or nothing program? Like if they qualify for deposit and not facility, is it all or nothing?
No, it's not all or nothing. You could just qualify, someone may just need the deposit for their golf out. And that's all we could do, 275 or whatever that is. They may have everything else, and we have people that are in that situation. They have been able to come up with everything else, but they can't use a water deposit and they're not able to do the bulk power deposit. And they can just receive those specific services.
It sounds like those are just designed for people that don't have cash reserves for possibly
Yes.
first and last month's rent, and they can afford the apartment, they just don't have a bucket of cash to pay these things up front.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Does acceptance into one of those programs eliminate you from taking advantage of another program later on? Say if you qualify and are able to get the rental or the deposit assistance, and then two years later, you're able to purchase your first house, is that
No, you can reapply for the purchases.
just certain programs you can only do one time?
Because the rental assistance is set up, we want you to move into homeownership.
Right.
So it would be, I think unfair to penalize you because you've been able to get your credit taken care of and able to get a loan, and it's a progression thing. So you should be able to go into purchase assistance. Penalized for that. Anybody else have any questions on this?
This kind of ties into the comment that the other lady made about when their lease is getting ready to come up. So what happens if the candidate had to have a family member co-sign to help them get into because of their credit score or for their deposit when they first got here? And when that year is up, everything has to be reevaluated. And if the credit score didn't come up, I have somebody who is running into that and they're trying to get their credit up in order to purchase, but their year mark is coming up and they might have to look for something. And how would that work?
That's a different situation and definitely sounds like there's a need there. It's not someone that's just where they had someone, they had a co-signer on it. So that's a difference, that's one of those special circumstances.
Okay, so that person, even though they are in a, they
They're
do
in an
have,
apartment now, they have to, they would have to go to another residence.
right,
You know,
but they might be able to get some
they
assistance.
may be able to,
Okay.
yes, I would suggest that they apply.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. They're very low, which is 50% or less. Low, which is 80% or less of the median income. And then the moderate, which is 120 to 140% of the median income. And the example I gave was a household of 4, their income cannot exceed $94,080. And that's at the 140%. 2 would be $75,320. But for the rental assistance, we look at no more than the 120%, which would give effect with a household of 2 would be $64,560. Household of 4 would be $80,640. No, that's the moderate. That's the moderate. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, if you go to floridahousing.org or to the ReHouse Bay website, it's going to have the income chart on there. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay. We also have a demolition assistance program. If someone is, and we work in conjunction with code enforcement with the demolition assistance program. So if someone needs their home demoed, they would go to rehousebay.org and apply, and then we would look at doing the demolition. But majority of the time, that's something that's referred through code enforcement. But I wanted to let you all know that that is something that is available. No, no, we wouldn't be able to assist in that situation because the home's already been demolished. Yeah, because the funds are specifically for the demo. Okay. For the demolition prior to. they purchased the home last year. Oh, no. If you purchased a damaged home, you're not going, no. Okay, now I understand. No. I'm sorry. Sorry, but I can't help in that instance. Okay, another program that we have is our emergency assistance program. The emergency assistance program will assist a homeowner. You have to have owned the home be in the home for at least 5 years. But if you have a repair, let's say your AC has gone out, and you just do not have the funding to take care of that. And another way emergency assistance will work is also if your insurance company paid for everything but one repair that you desperately need, and it is a health and safety issue, you would be able to apply for the emergency assistance program. Okay. Anybody have any questions on emergency assistance? The maximum amount that can be spent on emergency assistance is $10,000. One time. Yep, emergency assistance is one time. No, none of our funds are paid to the recipient. None of the programs that we administer, the funds go directly to the recipient. It has to go to, so in the instance of in the situation with emergency assistance, if someone is applying for that program, and let's say they need a heating and air unit, we would have to get 3 bids for that heating and air unit after we have someone go out and assess and say that they definitely do need a heating and air unit. And then whatever vendor, the lowest bidder, that's who, and once it's installed, we would pay that vendor. Okay. Yes, ma'am. The question was, with emergency assistance, is a note attached? Yes, there is a note for 3 years. The question was, do all of our programs require a promissory note be signed? Yes, all of them, there is a promissory note. And the length of time of that specific program that they've applied for. Okay. Another program that we offer is impact fee assistance. So if someone needs to be hooked up to city water, because there's still some areas that are in the city that they may be on a septic and they want to get hooked up to the city, or if they're in the county and same situation, we have an impact fee assistance program, which the maximum on that is $7,500. $7,500, yes. No, water, sewer, septic. Yes. Yeah. Gas is kind of a hard one, but if we're able to do it, yes, that's a utility. So yeah, everything is income. Yes. Yes, ma'am. No, our funds are our normal ship allocation. Then we have Hurricane Michael funds. And then we did have COVID funds. All the COVID funds are exhausted. They had to be spent by December 31st, and they have all been expended. So now we're working on Hurricane Michael funds and also our annual ship allocations that we receive for the city and the county. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Once they're granted eligibility, the funds are reserved for that particular client. So we would give them, it depends on the program pretty much. You know, if they have applied for, let's say, impact fee assistance, then we already know what is needed. So that's going to move much, quicker. On purchase assistance is where that would come in. It'll be I normally, because we have a huge resource right now, I have not had anyone that the funds have run out on and they have not been able to use it. As long as they're actively looking for a home and trying to progress. If they are just, okay, I got this award and I'm just gonna, make sure I spend it before the 3 years is up. No, it doesn't work that way because, yes. Right, right. We're gonna go through that, how that process is set up in just a second. Anyone else have any other questions? Yes, ma'am. After the time is up for which program? If it's a forgivable note, yes, it's forgiven, but let me rephrase that. After the time period on any of the program is up, yes, it is forgiven. So whether it be rehab that they participated in, which has a 15-year note and mortgage assigned, the mortgage is forgiven after the 15 years. Okay. Yes, ma'am. They can use it on new construction also. And so now we'll go ahead and get into the purchase assistance program. No, that was a great question though, because I may have forgotten that. Okay, now we'll get into the purchase assistance. For our first time home buyer program, a client can receive, would receive a minimum of $25,000 for down payment assistance, plus up to $5,000 in reasonable closing cost assistance. The maximum that they could receive is $45,000 in down payment and $5,000 in reasonable closing cost assistance. So $30,000 total minimum, $50,000 total maximum. The down 25 and 5 when you put it together is 30. Yeah. No, that's no problem. Yes, you have a question. It's if you have not bought a home in the last 3 years, you're considered a first-time home buyer. Yes, ma'am. It does include prepaids and escrows. Now, with the closing cost assistance, it's up to $5,000. We have to look at the CD. If there are fees on there that they're paying, it depends on what the costs are. So that's why we have to go through it to see if they, what amount they actually get. And we put on our approval letter up to $5,000 in reasonable closing costs assistance. They cannot pay for repairs and things like that, and that be listed as a closing cost. So it has to be true closing costs, but prepaids are included in that, in escrows. Yes, ma'am. Have they owned a home within the last 3 years? Have not owned a home in the last 3 years, then they would qualify. The key is you could not have owned a home within 3 years. Yeah. So the Hurricane Michael funds, you have to have lived in Bay County at the time of the storm and been affected by the storm. But we do have other pots of money also. But that is the big pot of money is, yes, you have to have been affected by Hurricane Michael. It's not for anything that we're using Hurricane Michael funds for. Okay. Yes. Yeah. It's all, we just kept it simple. Yep. So it's the same program, just on overdrive. Because it's based on income household size. So the people and the moderate income category, if your income is 120 to 140%, you are going to receive the minimum, which is the 25. Anyone 80 and below will receive the 45 and 5. That's how it's determined. Well, in the reason behind that is our the clients who need it most should receive the most, so and that's going to make a difference because the person that is in the 80% of AMI and the 50%, majority of the time, they're going to qualify for a limited amount. So that 45,000 that they would receive will make a difference in whether they can or cannot buy a house majority of the time. So that's the rationale behind it. Yes, ma'am. Yes. I would apply now, because we have a tremendous amount of applications, and you don't apply today and you're contacted tomorrow. So I would apply now. You get the application in, because there's processes that we have to go through before we even get to you. Documents you have to upload, so they need to go ahead and apply now. Yes, sir. We have had, well, it's all really the SHIP program. How long will we have funds to administer down payment and closing cost assistance? I've been with the city 24 years, and ever since I have been here, we've had the down payment and closing cost assistance program. So just not this much. Yes, we have just, you know, and prior to the last 2 years, we have not been, clients have not been receiving $45,000 down payment. So, okay. No, you're perfectly fine. I can't give you the specific. Yeah, I can't give you the specifics. I'll tell you, I'm going to have what we call a group intake interview in May. Will be our next one. We try to have them every month. And I probably have 150 people that will be going through that have applied for that interview. And these are people that have applied in February and March. So, okay. Okay. Okay, can the funds be leveraged with the state SHIP funds? I am confused with that question. I don't know, because this is SHIP pretty much. This is the SHIP program. Yeah, maybe, but maybe they're meaning the bond program. No, you cannot use, because it's really out of the same pot. It's state funding, so you can't use bond funds and the SHIP program. However, if the lender has some type of down payment program, and there are some lenders that have an in-house down payment program and they don't attach a mortgage to the property, it's just a grant, that can be used in conjunction with our funds. That's on the website, but the max sales price is $283,900, which is all relative to what you can qualify for. Yes. Funds will be set aside. Yeah, very good question. And we wouldn't want anybody to break their lease. It just depends on, have they been contacted yet? Are they really qualified with us already? But no, they would have time. We would like for them to finish out their lease. Okay, thank you. We don't have specific lenders. A client can participate with they can choose any lender that they want to work with. Now, what we do, and that's why we'll go over, if you all have the little handout that shows how the process flows. No, that's a great question. How the process flows. A client can choose any lender that they want to choose. But what will happen is, once they put their application in with ReHouseBay.org, they will be, that the first step is to apply and then get approved for the assistance. When they come in, I do a detailed write-up with them. I look at their credit. They may not be ready to move to the next step. We know what lenders are requiring. I talk to them all the time. We know what they were going to require for them to get to get a loan. And if they're not at that point, they would be put in a holding pattern with us. And they know what their dates are, that they will need to contact us back to see if they've been able to make improvements. We give them a guide of things that they can do to progress. Someone that is ready at that point, we've looked at their credit, we do a budget, we look at their budget to make sure that their gross income, that their mortgage payment is not going to be more than 30% of their income. Now, but with doing the budget, we can also see if they're able to go up just a little bit more. But our guidelines are normally 30 on the front, 40 on the back. We can change that depending on household income. If there's some additional income coming into the household that the lender isn't using, we can take that into consideration. So they start with us and they know when they leave our office what they can qualify for. I may tell them your max sales price should not exceed 150,000. They may go to the lender and get a pre-qualification letter of 200,000. Well, when the lender calls me, I want to know, how did you get to 200,000 with this client? Because their debt ratio, their debt ratio is maxed out. Well, it's because they can do a 55% ratio with the lender. We can't do that. Our thing is sustainability. And we all know that your net income is not the same as your gross income. And we want to make sure that's how we've kept our foreclosure rate low. We probably have like a 3% foreclosure rate, one of the lowest probably in the state with people that administer the SHIP program. And it's not that we're trying to keep anyone out of a house, but this is not the program for everyone. It's not a one size fits all. So some people, for the people that this program is for, it's excellent for. But there's some people that this is not the program for. If you want to buy that $200,000 house and you really only qualify for 150, we're not telling you you can't buy it. Our funds just can't be used to participate. No, that is total household income. Gross, yeah. Total household income, yes. But that's a separate piece looking at the net income. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, one of the questions that I ask clients is, if you're in a lease, when is your lease up? But however, we have no control on that part. And that's really on the client. The lender will check, I'm sure, some of their rental history, but some people are going to break it no matter what. So it's going to depend on what's in the lease agreement. Do they have, or are they able to buy the lease out? But we definitely do not encourage anyone to just break your lease. So I don't know what no, we did. Yeah, I understand. It's a great question. That's why I said, the thing would be to run your lease out. But some people, if they found that house, and a lot of times they don't tell us those things. We have no way of verifying when their lease is up. So, yes, ma'am. Right. Yes. No, okay. The two that can overlap are the very low and the low. Right, those two can overlap. But exactly, right. Yeah, but we can only spend by state statute a certain amount in moderate. That's just, okay. So if the client would apply for the program, then we would have them go to their lender. We're having a lot of people that are calling and saying, I'm closing in June. I want to receive my assistance and haven't applied. If you already have your contract and you already have gotten your loan, you had to know how you were receiving, the down payment. So any of those clients, we wouldn't be able to assist because it is first come, first serve, first qualified. And it's not fair to the person that applied in January for the person that is closing in June for them to be able to receive funds. And because we're going to get to the point where the moderate money will run out. So it's not fair to the person who went through the proper procedures and waited. So, yes, ma'am. I do not have a time limit on that now. Most of the time once they've gone through, we do a pre-approval first. So if their lender is saying they want a pre-approval, we send a pre-approval that says it's contingent upon them taking our first time home buyers class. The home has to be acceptable. Verification documents have to be received. And then after that, we will do the final approval, which will state, and in that pre-approval letter, it will already determine the amount of assistance that they would be receiving roughly. But yeah, there's no time limit on it. Now, if we get to the point where we're running low on the moderate funds, we would contact all the people in the pipeline and say, there's a time, you only have 3 months to spend your allocation, or it's going to be given to the next person. Okay. No, it's all, yeah, it continues. We did have it that way at one time when we were just receiving state funds for our annual allocations, but no, it's just it's open. Yes, ma'am. What I have done with in the past is I've spoken with lenders to see what programs they may have available, to see what the minimal is that they will count on the student loans. Most lenders, it's 1%. I have worked with some lenders that will accept if they are able to get a letter from the student loan company stating that their payment has been reduced, how long it's going to last. Some of them will use that as the payment amount, but the lending guidelines are changing all the time on the student loans. So it's really hard to say. Okay, Mia can answer that for you. Right. Right. So you really, yeah, right. You really have to get with the lender is basically what the answer would be. Okay. Also, if you look at the little guide for the first time home buyers, then they would start working with the lender and get pre-approved with the lender. I asked them to send me the pre-approval letter that they've received from the lender. That way we kind of match apples to apples. Majority of the time, the lenders that have worked with me in the past, we're pretty much right on when we come up with what their sales price should be. And we also will verify with the lender what the amount of assistance is that they're actually going to receive from us. Then they would, as long as they take the first time home buyers class before closing, they can take it at any time. Some people want to take that class first off. They want to apply and get in the next class we have. And if they do, that's fine. But as long as it's taken prior to closing, and we do have an online option, so no one is going to risk not being able to close because they haven't taken the class. But I will tell you, the clients, it's an all-day class that we teach at the office at City Hall. Majority of them, I've had people call me back that have taken the online and they've said, I'm in the house now, but I still want to come back and take the in-person class when you offer that. So it's strictly up to, we're giving them that option now, especially with COVID. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we really prefer that, but some people have applied and they, have already picked out their house. They don't want to they don't want to take the class in person. But I do, and I have had, I don't know how many clients tell me that they prefer taking the class first. Yes, ma'am. USDA, the direct program out of Mariana. If a client, and there are some clients that I refer to when they come in and we do our appointment, that I refer to them because they will need the subsidy. And that's the difference in the programs. If they need subsidy assistance, that is the program for them to definitely go to, because that makes a difference on whether they're going to be able to buy a home or not buy a home. They have lost a processor there, a couple of processors. So, and their funds have been swept for a little bit just because of the government shutdown and things like that. So they're not operating at full capacity right now. They are processing those applications out of Jacksonville, but it is a good 3-month wait with them. But they are still processing. One thing I will tell you, if you have a client that is using USDA Direct because the applications are being processed out of Jacksonville, they need to make sure they check their mail, because I talked to their agency director yesterday, and she said there were some applications the people had applied and they hadn't returned the documentation. They give you 15 days to send the documents in, and they can't close the file if they don't get them. So make sure that you encourage them. Please check your mail, get anything in that you need to get in to them. So on the people that were going through ReHouse Bay, if they had any of those, she contacted me so that if they were missing documentation, we could get that to them. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. For purchasing a home? For the assistance programs, no, we don't do any background checks. I mean, that would come in on a lender, and as long as they're able, they have to be able to go through our programs with purchasing. You have to be able to obtain financing. So I haven't had that question before. Good question. Yes. No. The question was, can owner financing, can SHIP funds be used with owner financing? No. It has to be a regulated mortgage company. No, we won't do owner financing. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Yes, that they were affected by Hurricane Michael. Yeah, those were the reasons. They lived in Bay County at the time of the storm. That's the big kicker there. You can't be living in Alabama and moved here in. Okay. So on this little guide, of course, we do the budget, and that's done at the time when we have the appointment with the client, but they may have to come back in for an additional budget to sit down with us. Then once they get once they sign a contract, they need to send the contract to us. So they've gotten approved through us, a preliminary approval. They know what assistance amount they're going to receive. And they've gone out, they found their home, they've gotten pre-approved with their lender. So now we get to the contract. The client will have to send the contract to us, and then once we get the contract, we order the home inspection. On your contract, because we've increased the amount of closing cost assistance, I suggest to the clients and to the realtors that with the closing cost assistance, if the seller is willing to pay closing cost assistance, that they put in their contract that the contract is contingent upon SHIP approval approval of the home inspection, and also, of course, financing is in there. Now, if the seller is giving closing cost assistance, we will do up to $5,000. The client has to contribute a minimum of $2,000 towards the purchase of this property. So whatever earnest money deposit he puts down, that's part of it. And then at closing, they would have to bring the remainder. They would have to come to closing with a minimum for that to add up to the $2,000. But I suggest that you put in there where if the seller's doing closing cost assistance and or repairs. That way, if the inspection comes back and there are repairs on there, then those funds, the client can maximize the funding. They'd be able to they'll use their 2,000, because what happens is we use the client's funds, the seller's contributions, then our funds come into play. But let's say their closing costs, some of them may not need closing costs, may not need any assistance from the seller. Then that money can be used for repairs. So that way we can maximize all the funds. No, we have not gotten to that point where that's the only thing we order is the inspection. The termite has to be ordered by the agents, the buyer, the survey, all of those things, all the other things are being ordered by the client. I mean, by the client and their realtor are taken care of. And what happens when the inspection is done, we get a full inspection. It includes the wind mitigation and the 4-point if one is needed. Sometimes they're very thick, sometimes they're very small, but it's a detailed write-up of the whole house. It shows everything. That is submitted to the client, because you have to remember the client is the person we're working with. They give us permission to speak to the realtor if they give us permission. I have some clients that don't want me to talk to anybody but them. And I have to respect that because that's their option. And because of the privacy, we have to do that. They don't want the realtor to know anything about their lending situation. No information will they let me disclose. But they receive the full detailed report. We review that report with them, and it's not the inspector that decides what needs to be fixed. We go through and we take out things that that do not need to be fixed, or that are cosmetic, or things that we can work around. And then we compose a list that says repair list, and we send that to the client, and that is what is forwarded that they forward to their realtor. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm. I would need to look at that with you, because if they sent you the right list, it will have on the top of it repair list, and it will have, but I can get with you after we finish up. It will have repair list on it, and everything listed on there are the things that we're requiring be repaired on the property. Roof should last a minimum of 5 years. As long as we have 5 years on it, we can go with that. Everyone knows the insurance companies are tightening up right now. Cloth wiring, if the home has cloth wiring in it, that's going to be an issue with the insurance companies. Right now, insurance is making a big difference on whether some people can qualify or not. So, and you have to realize these people are receiving this assistance. They don't have the funds, what may be a simple repair to us, they don't have it in their budget or any funding set aside to do that repair later. Okay. Yes, ma'am. The inspection is part of their closing cost assistance. So let's say a client comes through and they have, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Will because we had a story, but let's say the client comes in and there's an inspection we've done and the house falls through. It could be, the inspection may have been okay, but there could have been something on the buyer's side and the buyer couldn't get their loan, whatever the case may be. If we have to order another inspection, we will do that. The inspectors that we work with, they will, allow us to order the inspections, and they're paid for at closing. We eat it. We eat it. Also on the closing cost assistance, anything that the buyer pays for outside of closing, we can't reimburse them for. So if the lender's requiring the appraisal be paid for upfront, then that's in addition to the money that they have to come up with. If, you know, in a lot of lenders, you know, you do have to pay for the appraisal upfront. So no, it does not count for that 2,000, no. And they are, then that's explained to them when they come in. So everybody, if they tell you they don't know that, it's not correct. We've explained that to them. So what we suggest is the clients do not, and we tell them over and over, we would suggest you not order anything until the inspection comes back and we know if there are repairs that the seller's going to fix those repairs. So termite, all of those things, they want to wait and order. But if it's a time crunch, it's up to them. If they want to go ahead and order the appraisal, that's on them. We've had lately a lot of appraisals that are coming back that are not appraising. So I don't know if you all are running into that. So that's why I would, you know, I don't even know what to say on that end. But yes, you are not able, he wanted to know the things that would disqualify a property. A client, we explained to them that you cannot purchase a home with a pool or a hot tub. That's considered a luxury. And not affordable. Even if it's in their price point, that increases their water bill, maintenance on the pool. You know, now if you put it in later, that's on you. I've had clients that there have been some above ground pools and they didn't want them anyway. The seller got rid of them for them. So but no pools. Yes, ma'am. All homes. Yeah, all homes going through the program. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you meant about the pool. Okay. Mobile homes, no. 1994, if it's a manufactured home, modular / manufactured, it has to be listed that way. Then yes, that's a possibility for that. Newer than 94. You can purchase new construction or an existing home. Right now, I have a lot of new construction that clients are purchasing. 283.9, but relative to what you can qualify for. Yes. Atherine. No. Once they purchase the home is theirs. You know, we can't tell you what you can and can't do to that property once you've purchased it. But you have to remember, if you bought this home through this program and you think you may want to sell it to someone that may be going through the program, that pool's going to disqualify it. Yeah. Yeah, they can do, yeah. That can be done. Now, they do have a second mortgage that's on the property. Any funds that we give to you they're given to you in the form of a grant, but for the purchase assistance. So if you receive $50,000, there'll be a $50,000 second mortgage on the property, 0% interest. As long as you live in the home, you don't have to make payments or pay the funds back. At the end of 30 years, it's considered paid in full. Let's say you live there 10 years and you sell the home, you do have to pay those funds back. And those funds go back into the program to be recycled for another family. Not prorated, no. It's a full amount. Yes, ma'am. Yep. Get the contract, we reserve your money whenever it's done. That's when yep. Second mortgage. Okay, if you receive, okay, it's a 30-year second mortgage for the funds you receive. 0% interest. No monthly payment is required on it. If you receive the full amount, the $50,000, year 10, you want to sell your house, you would pay back the original amount that we gave to you at the time of closing. There is no 5-year. I don't know where that's come from, but that we've never had a 5-year forgiveness. Now, the bond program may have had that, but that is not, the SHIP program has never had a 5-year forgiveness. Yeah, okay, it was a bond, okay, because I get that question all the time. Yeah, but it's not our program. Yeah. Yes. Yes, it's not. One has nothing to do with it, right? You pay your original mortgage off in 20 years, that you just, let that second set there. Unless you're planning on selling it. But if you're not selling it, because it's 0%, you're not paying interest on it. But you can pay it off at any time if you want to. The home has to remain owner occupied, or the county or the city can come in and call their note. It does have to remain owner occupied. It's not set up for you to rent the home out. No, I've done country club lately. We've done, DR Horton. So it doesn't matter, you can have HOA fees. You just have to be able to afford them, because the lender is going to look at that in the debt ratio. And yes, ma'am. It depends. Okay. When I send the repair list, I'm going to go through and I'm going to put on there what needs to be repaired. Those things need to be repaired. And you can always call and we can go over them, but those things on that repair list need to be repaired. That's why we caution the buyers on signing as is contracts. If you know that you're taking a SHIP applicant out and you already know, you've talked to the other agent, the seller is not going to do one thing. He doesn't care whether, the windows are broken, he's just not going to fix anything. Then that's probably not a house for them to be looking at, unless you as the agent is going to go in and help them repair. So I know you have. Exactly. And we're here to we're not trying to kill any deals. We want these people to be able to obtain home ownership, but they have to be in a safe, sound, sanitary home that they can afford to maintain. Because we don't want them to lose the home. That's devastating for a family to lose a home in 2 years. And when you're only investing $2,000 into a property and you've received $45,000, $50,000 down payment, if you start having major problems with that house, you're going to walk versus trying to put money down a money pit. And that is one of the reasons why most people will leave those homes and just let them sit, because they can't afford to repair them. So they're going to walk. Yes, ma'am. Yes, but that's going to be a lender also. That's a twofold thing. Because we want to see that they've had the ability to save on our end also, but the lender is probably going to have more of a problem with that than we would. Yeah. She wanted to know if the $2,000 investment that the client needs to make, if there could be gift funds. And so I said, it's mainly that's more so a lender question, but we do want to see that they're able to budget and that they can, because $2,000, if you're trying to purchase a home, you should be able to come up with $2,000 as an investment. So we really are going to hinge on that coming from the client. Normally we see gift funds if they're needing more than that. But I have not run into that anybody has had to get gift funds for the $2,000 initial investment. Okay. Yes. If the original applicant passes, then we would work with the family because we do want it to be owner occupied on options. So that's a unique situation if someone passes. So they would just really need to contact the office. We have had that happen in the past, and there was someone in the family that took over the second mortgage. It was transferred to them. Okay. They need to sell the property. They're not set up to be rentals. They have to pay the money back, yes. Well, and you have to look at it this way. I know you're saying, well, they're getting that money, but they have to pay it back. They didn't borrow, if they had borrowed 100% from the mortgage company, they would have to pay it back. So we've reduced their mortgage amount by $45,000. Exactly. That's why we want them to buy a good home, so it's going to appreciate and take care of it and appreciate in value instead of depreciate. They have to, the CD has to show them coming to closing with a total that they have invested $2,000 into that property. Yeah. Well, there's a lien on the property, so it would go through foreclosure. Yeah, then it would get sold. And we may go in and buy it back, just depending on what the situation is. I would say 3 years, yes. Yes. They have to wait 3 years. Yes, ma'am. They would need to talk to their first mortgage lender to see if they would reduce. Yeah. The question was if someone had to relocate and the home depreciated in value, would we forgive the second? And the answer is no. They would need to work with their first mortgage lender to see. And we have that happen with USDA sometimes, but they have to work that out. We can't, they're not going to reduce we're not going to reduce our funds. The first mortgage lender may, if they were doing a short sale or something. Or it may be in our interest, especially with the amount that we're putting in, and it may be something that we may go back and purchase and, repair for another family. So it just depends. Anything? Yes, ma'am. Yes. 45 days. Yes. Yeah. We would like, if it does not put a burden on the transaction, to allow about 15 days for the inspection period. That's what we're asking for, but 45 days on the contract. And we've been we've stuck with 45 days, but there's a lot of pieces that go into that. You've got the lender end on there also. They may tell you that they want 60 days on the contract. If the appraisal, right, yeah. So I would say go with 60, but 45 is what we require. Okay. Yes, ma'am. It depends on when they applied. It's a lot of factors in there. It could be and when they get all their documents uploaded, that's another thing. Because what happens is a client applies for the program, they get an email saying, we've received your application. Then they get an email probably a week or so after that stating, you need to upload these documents. And once they apply, they received 3 to 4 additional emails, 30, 60, and 90 days, informing them to upload their documents. Once all the documents are uploaded, that's when they move on to the next step and they're contacted. So yeah, I wish I could tell you exactly. In a perfect world, it'd be 30 days, but we're not there yet. When they come in for their appointment, I always ask, are you already working? Do you have a realtor? And I notate that in the file. And if there's a lender that they have already been working with, and if they already have their pre-approval letter, I ask them to send that to me. And when they upload the documents, they have to upload everything to go to the next phase. They can't just put one thing in there and then they're going to be contacted. So it's the full list of documents that we require. Anything that I didn't cover? Any additional questions? Thank you all for having me. Look forward to working with you all.